All right, Pokemon Champions. It's coming out very soon, or it might already be out. It's probably already out because these videos take a while to make. When I scripted this video, I didn't even know its release date yet. But now when I'm filming it, I do know when it was released. So it's probably not going to be done by then. But we're going to try anyways. And everyone's super excited about it. Pokemon Champions is the new big step forward in the Pokemon franchise. And it makes sense too. Like, Pokemon makes literally a bajillion spin-offs. So why not make a competitive one? I mean, you got one where like Pokemon are in a tea shop. Why don't we make one where like you can actually compete? I feel like a lot of people like myself have been wanting to get into competitive Pokemon for a while now, but it's just really tough to. First, you have to buy the game, then you have to beat the game, then you have to like catch all the Pokemon you want, you have to know which Pokemon are good. Some Pokemon you can only get if the DLC is like over. You can't just jump into competitive Pokemon. It's just way too intimidating. But what it seems like Pokemon Champions is going to be getting rid of that barrier to entry. It's going to be so much easier for people like myself to get into competitive Pokemon. But something that I've noticed, and I'm sure a lot of people have also noticed, is that there's no story mode in the game, which isn't a problem. You know, a lot of online competitive games don't have a story mode, but what if it did have one? So that's what I'm doing. Yeah, I think there's a lot you could do with the Pokemon Champions story mode and a lot you could do to make it a lot of fun. So is this video just going to be Luke talking about an imaginary story mode in a Pokemon competitive game? That's probably almost definitely not going to happen. Yes. What about it? Hey, I don't think people come to my channel to watch realistic, definitely happening videos about Nintendo. I mean, I literally made a game in a different video, so I don't think that's happening. Aside from that, let's jump right into it. What if Pokemon Champions had a story mode? Let's find out. As always, if you like this video, like, comment, subscribe. You guys blew up that last video, which I am very honored by. Thank you so much for blowing it up. I was shook to my core. So yeah, more videos coming out all the time, at least once a month. Probably not more than that. I'm gonna try it.
We'll see whose star shines brightest.
So you might be wondering, Mr. Explain Stuff, why does Pokemon Champions need a story mode? That's a great question. Reason number one is to teach new players about VGC. If you don't know, the phrase VGC means video game champion or competition. What does that mean? Video game championship. I was right. It's the official terminology the Pokemon Company uses when it comes to competitive Pokemon battling. Because competitive Pokemon battling, VGC, is very different than the kind of battling you do just like throughout your Pokemon adventure. VGC is always in doubles, so each trainer always has 2 Pokemon in front of them at a time. You create a team of 6, you choose 4 of your 6 to fight the other opponent, and it's basically like a giant chess game. It's very intense. Because the thing about Pokemon VGC is that it is not easy to comprehend, not in the slightest. If someone told you, oh yeah, I'm just calcing my Adamant Koraidon to be able to Oko Bold Terra Water Amoonguss in the sun with Terrafire Flame Charge so that my timid Fluttermane could come in for free with a speed boosting photosynthesis and sweep the rest of the team with Terra Fairy Moonblast, you probably think that person's having a stroke. But that's a legitimate sentence. Like, if you play VGC, you know exactly what that sentence means. There are so many intricacies when it comes into competitive Pokemon that you can't just jump into it. There's this video that Dr. Aaron Traylor put together that I think describes that so well and puts into easy to understand terms why VGC is unlike any other competitive game and why it is so complex and hard to get into. So whenever Pokemon Champions does come out, it's going to need some sort of tutorial. You can't just throw players in, you need to teach them at minimum the basics. And I'm not talking like, oh, you know, grass beats water, water beats fire, fire beats grass. Or, oh my goodness, yes, this Dialga is stronger than Minun. Don't use Minun. Like, that's not what I'm talking about here. The things that we need to teach players and that players need to know before getting into competitive Pokemon is what a good team looks like and what are some moves and strategies that are very common that you'll probably see and know how to integrate it into your own team. So that way when they jump into a match online, they're not just immediately destroyed. A lot of other story modes already do this to a certain extent. Off the top of my head, Splatoon comes to mind, probably because my last video was Splatoon, and also I just love Splatoon. The Splatoon single player, even though it is just a lot of fun outright and a good experience, is mostly made for you to understand game mechanics. Give the players a basis they can work off, so that way they can bring that basis and have at least some sort of initial understanding before jumping into the competitive part of it. We don't need them to be complete pros after the story mode, but we want them to at least understand so that when their Grubbin gets completely annihilated by Calyrex likes ice in Trick Room, they know why. So that's reason number one, good understanding of the game. Reason number two is to give a little fan service to the fans. One of the most iconic parts about Pokemon is obviously the Pokemon. We all have our favorite Pokemon, the one we grew up with, like our niche little Pokemon buddy dude. We all got one. But something that a lot of the fans really love about the Pokemon games as well are the trainers you meet. Gym leaders, rivals, champions, all those guys. They're such great characters that a lot of the players get attached to. So then kind of came in the thought, well, if this mode's going to be all about battling, why don't we include some of the trainers from past generations and put them into this mode? I mean, it feels like too much sense not to do it. For whatever reason, when it comes to Pokemon spin-offs, the Pokemon company likes to make its own characters for the spin-offs. Characters are not from the baseline games, like completely new characters for the side games. And it seems like that's already happening with Pokemon Champions. We already got introduced to some of these people. I mean, they look fine. They don't look bad. I don't know. I haven't really took a good look at them. And there's nothing inherently wrong with adding original characters to the Pokemon spin-off games. But there are so many trainers and characters that the fans love that are just stuck in their older games. So it would be cool to see them here, especially since this is supposed to be like the next big step in the Pokemon like universe, the Pokemon zeitgeist. It would be awesome to see some familiar faces. We'll talk more about how they get integrated later, but for now, that's the vision. That's where we're at. Okay, so we already talked about how the purpose of this mode is to get people into Pokemon VGC and give them at least like a base understanding on how VGC works. Because there are so many different factors that people need to keep in mind when building a team for competitive Pokemon. This mode will hopefully teach new players what kind of strategies they can put into their team or base their team around. I'm talking about things like redirection, speed control, fake out, protect, sleep, weather effects, intimidate, terrains, screens, etc. The list goes on. And that list is mostly just like defensive strategies. If we're talking offensive strategies, that's a whole nother like category. Stuff like stab moves, stat boosting moves, priority moves, spread moves, terrain boosted moves, how to train a certain Pokemon to survive certain hits or make sure they knock out the other Pokemon with certain hits. The list is literally endless. And that's the cool thing about VGC is that to a certain extent, every single Pokemon can do something. It might not be a good something, but every single Pokemon can do at least something to be put onto a team. And that's very important to tell the player. So many different kinds of people are going to be giving this game a shot. And what they're going to want to do is that they're going to try to want to win with one of their favorite Pokemon. And that Pokemon, it may not be able to do something super good, but can at least do something. Like even a pathetic Pokemon like Raticate. Yeah, it's not super strong, but it's got like Guts Facade. Will it hit like a truck? No, but like if you want to use on a team, you theoretically could. We want to show players that, hey, if you want to use Camera Up on a team, you can. Should you use Torkoal instead? Probably. But you can technically if you want. And this isn't just me being super like hopey dopey, like, oh, use whatever Pokemon you want. You'll be fine, kid. No, we can see this in actual tournaments nowadays. And I'm not just talking Wolfey. Wolfey can use literally any Pokemon ever and probably win with it. We're not just talking about that. There are so many Pokemon from over the years that are quote unquote weak, but have still done pretty dang well at tournaments. Scyther, a pre-evolution bug type, won a regional last year. This one gal got 42nd at a regional using Oricorio. Scraggy got 2nd at a major, and even Bastiodon got 33rd at a regional, which makes me especially happy because Sheldon's one of my favorite Pokemon. I love my boy. He's so cute. Yeah. Almost every Pokemon has some sort of niche it can fill. We want to show players that they can use their favorite Pokemon because yes, while that Pokemon might not be the best in the world, in my opinion, a lot of where the fun of VGC comes from is people using different strategies in ways that you couldn't expect or that you wouldn't expect. There are over 1,000 Pokemon. I'm sure there's some kind of strategy that hasn't popped up yet that's just waiting to be discovered. And with Pokemon Champions, it's a really good way to discover these strategies. The idea of the story mode is that you're going to be going and battling different trainers. And these trainers are going to be using one of these kind of Pokemon and going to have some kind of strategy associated with that Pokemon. And the idea is that you, the person watching, is going to see this and they're going to say, oh, wow, I know that Pokemon could do that. I'm going to give that a shot. Or, oh, I know this ability existed. Let me try it and see if I can make it work. That's the idea here. We want them to have fun. We want to get the gears turning and see what are the endless possibilities of things you can do. Greetings, trainer, and welcome to Championship Academy. Great name. You have been selected in a very rigorous and hard course to become the next Pokemon Master Champion person. And not everyone gets chosen, so count your lucky stars. This is the story mode, by the way, in case you haven't picked that up yet. In this academy, there's going to be trainers from all over the world who have come here to help you, that's right, you, become the best trainer there ever was. They're going to teach you strategies, they're going to teach you different kinds of Pokemon they can use. These trainers are here to help you out. How this is going to work is that there's going to be 9 different leagues that you can train under. And there are 8 trainers in each league. Each league is going to be based off a different region. So like there's the Kanto League, there's the Jhoto League, there's the Hoenn League, blah, 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 etc., etc. And each league is going to have trainers from that region that you'll battle, and they're going to help you out. These trainers can be Elite Four members, they could be rivals, they could be gym leaders, they could be literally whoever from that region. Each trainer that you're going to battle in one of these leagues is going to have a spotlight Pokemon, an ace Pokemon, basically a certain Pokemon that the rest of their team is based around. This Pokemon is either going to have a specific strategy, some sort of niche, you'll see as I'm explaining it. And before the match, they'll tell you what the strategy is. They'll be like, hi, my name is Brock, and I have an Onix that has the ability Sturdy, so that way it won't die in one hit. That's not one of the actual examples I'm going to say later, but that's just like some inspiration you can think of. Does Onix even get Sturdy? I think it does. It's really embarrassing if it doesn't. They're each going to have a certain Pokemon. They're going to explain what that Pokemon does, so that way you kind of know what to expect, but not only know what to expect, but also how some abilities and mechanics aren't blatantly told to you. So that way when you get hit by a cute little blue bunny who's doing double damage and you're like, why'd I die? You know why. And from there, the battles are literally how any other Pokemon battle would be for VGC. Open team sheet so you can see the entire opponent's team, move, items. Then you choose 4 out of your 6 Pokemon that you have to battle your opponent. And the cool part about this is that when you beat your opponent, you actually get their spotlight Pokemon. So say you just beat someone who has a Float Soul and their whole ability or thing is that they can move super fast in the rain with Swift Swim, and you want to try that yourself, you totally can. That Pokemon that was their spotlight Pokemon is now yours to use. You can use it in competitive battles, you can use it online battles in the story mode, that's yours. Because the game's not out yet, that's something that we're not 100% sure on, is how you're going to be able to get Pokemon. We know that you'll be able to move them from Pokemon Home, and there is going to be a way to basically like rent Pokemon without needing to pay for them, so that way you can use them on your teams. And there's going to be a way to get points to like buy new Pokemon to put on your team. But I also think it's a good idea to give players at least like, if not a super broken amount of Pokemon, but at least like decent enough Pokemon to get them started. That's also part of the reason why this mode would never actually happen, because I don't see that ever happening. But like I said, this is fan fiction, so who cares? You're going to be battling one trainer at a time. So first you battle, I don't know, Billy McGee. Then once you beat him, get his Pokemon, you move to the next one, and the next one, and the next one. And at the end, there's a boss that you have to beat. Also, when you beat a trainer and you get their Pokemon, you're not getting their Pokemon specifically. You're not stealing it. These Pokemon are basically specifically bred and raised to be given to trainers coming through and graduating through the academy. I'm pretty sure something like that's happened in the show before, so that's how we're doing it. If not, too late now. And you don't have to go in league order either. Obviously, like the first league is Kanto, then it's Jhoto, then it's Hoenn. But if you want to start at Kanto, then jump to Hoenn afterwards, or if you want to do a few battles in Paldea, and then you want to go back and do like a few battles in Kalos, you're totally able to. The other regions don't get unlocked the more you battle. The different trainers will. You cannot battle the next 7 trainers until you've defeated the first one. But region-wise, you can jump over wherever. That doesn't matter. And these aren't like consecutive battles either. Say you've beaten 4 trainers in the Hoenn League, and then you want to battle a few trainers in the Jhoto League, you're totally able to. That's no issue. A lot of the inspiration I got from this was actually the PWT from Pokemon Black 2, the Pokemon World Tournament. That mode was so cool. I love seeing trainers from past generations and older generations, especially with teams that are like actually good. Because that's the whole point of like gym leaders, you know, is that they have teams that are a little bit weaker. Brock's not going to throw a freaking Rhyperior and like Colossal at you. I couldn't think of any other strong rock Pokemon. Strong rock Pokemon. Cloth? No, Cloth. Hold on. I need to Google this. What's a strong rock? Hold on. Why can't I think of any strong rock types? A Stack Attacka? Yeah, we don't want Brock throwing a Stack Attacka at you. Oh, Tyranitar. Why did I just say Tyranitar? Tyranitar's busted. I'm an idiot. So yeah, in the Pokemon World Tournament, they come with actual strong teams to battle you. We're trying to replicate that a little bit. But the little twist I'm putting on all this is that in each league, there is going to be a trainer that is assigned to you specifically to teach you more about Pokemon battling and to teach you how to be a good trainer. Their main purpose is basically to give you a direction on how you want to build your team. And basically how they're going to give you direction on how to build your team is that they're going to be lending you a Pokemon that you have to use for all 8 of your battles. It's basically giving you a Pokemon that you have to design the rest of your team around. A core strategy, a core mon. And my idea, since this game is literally called Pokemon Champions, the person who's going to be your tutor, your guy, is going to be the Pokemon champion for each region. See, now that's clever. Good job, Luke. You're smart. It just makes too much sense not to do. The point of the champions in the Pokemon games is for them to be the strongest trainers, and they're seeing who else are going to be the strongest. They're bringing up the next generation of strong trainers, almost like scouting. And it would be so cool to fight alongside these champions, to be basically their student, their protege. And the game's literally called Pokemon Champions. It's genius. So the champion is going to give you one of their Pokemon that you have to use in all 8 of the battles. And you will not get this Pokemon to use in your own battles or like online until you beat all 8 matches in that league. This is a Pokemon they raised specifically to train with you. And it's not like theirs, like say your buddy is Cynthia, right? You're not getting Cynthia's Garchomp, but you're just getting like, I don't know, maybe like Cynthia's Garchomp's like 52nd son. I don't know. I don't know. And this will give you a strategy to build around. Like the Pokemon they give you might be more offensive. So how do we support into like a more offensive Pokemon? The Pokemon they might give you is more on like redirection. So how do we support that? Huge setup Pokemon. How do we support that? And like I said, you need to bring it to all of your battles in that league. You can change the rest of the team. The other 6 Pokemon don't matter. And the last battle, so the 8th battle in like these leagues, is going to be against the champion. So once you've been using this Pokemon for the entire league, now you got to go against it in like a super busted team. And then if you beat it, then you get the Pokemon. Yippee. We did it. So yeah, the whole point of this is just to get players inspired on what kind of Pokemon they want to use, expose them to as many Pokemon as possible. There's no way that people aren't going to get like at least a little inspired on how to build a team, how to do whatever. Like I mentioned, in each league, there's going to be 8 trainers because, 8 gym battles. Makes sense. When choosing the trainers that are going to be in each league, I try to base it off of some rules. Each league has to have at least one of the protagonists, one rival, one Elite Four member, one gym leader, and then the champion, obviously. The final trainer will always be the champion, no matter what. And like I said before, all 8 of these trainers are going to have a specific Pokemon, and this Pokemon will have some kind of strategy, some kind of item, some kind of move, some kind of whatever that everything's going to be based around. In the cases where a trainer is a monotype trainer, let's say like, Misty or Lieutenant Surge, they usually only use water type Pokemon, or you only use electric type Pokemon. This will not be the case for the trainers in the league. Yes, they're probably going to prefer just water type Pokemon or like just electric type Pokemon, but they can have whatever kind of type of Pokemon on their team. It can be mixed. The reasoning behind this is because if they had just all of one type of Pokemon, it wouldn't be a very good team. And the whole idea of this mode is try to get people to learn how to make good Pokemon teams. So if they're going against a bad Pokemon team, it's not helping. Also, I didn't make full teams for all the trainers because that's a lot of teams. I love watching VGC. I don't play VGC. So I don't have enough knowledge to make, 72 different VGC teams. I didn't do that. I did make full teams for the champions, and honestly, I don't even know how good those teams are. We'll see. You can flame me down in the comments, but you could. The rest of the teams, or all the other trainers, their teams are not going to be as strong, and I'll only be telling you the base Pokemon, maybe some others that they'll be bringing with them. Some of these ace Pokemon may have a generational gimmick, for example, like Z moves, Mega Evolutions, Terastallization, etc., but more likely than not, they won't. I might bring some up here and there. You'll see what I mean. Some other rules are that there will be no duplicate types of Pokemon in a region. Like you're not going to see 2 water type trainers in the same region. You're not going to see 2 fire type trainers in the same region. There might be some Pokemon that share types, but they'll have to be dual typed. And in the same region, there'll be no duplicate strategies as well. Say, for example, in one region, there's a Pokemon that uses Trick Room. In that same league, there will not be another Pokemon that also uses Trick Room. When choosing the trainers, I really try to choose trainers that were fan favorites and have them use a Pokemon that they have used in games in the past. Emphasis on try. This was really hard. This was surprisingly tough. Some trainers I really want to use, but they just didn't fit the rules. They would have been using the same strategy as a different trainer. They would have been using the same type as a different trainer. Or when looking at the Pokemon that they've used in the past, there's just no Pokemon that's good enough to be included in this league. For example, let's go back to Brock. Like, yes, technically in his games, his ace Pokemon is Onix. But do you really want to be using Onix competitively? I mean, like, you could, but should we be telling trainers, yeah, use Onix, you'll be fine? I know I said, oh yeah, you can use any Pokemon. But like, Onix? Really? Have you seen these stats? They're horrible. So these trainers and the Pokemon that they use are not necessarily going to be one-to-one with what they used in previous games. I've tried to make a balance of what Pokemon would be good to give to a trainer and also what Pokemon would be fitting the fan service side and what's faithful to their character. And these teams and the Pokemon they're basing their teams around are not necessarily going to be like super good or amazing, but they're at least decent. Like if you play with them online, like you'd probably do at least decent, like fine, but they're not going to be busted. We want players to get creative on what Pokemon they can use and what strategies are available to them. So that way, with all this in mind, we're not trying to give every single trainer in the leagues a rain team with Pelipper, Archeolodon, and like Urshifu Rapid Strike. We're trying to avoid that. Last note, but I already kind of mentioned, I am not a VGC player. These teams are not necessarily going to be good. I don't know how to make a good team. Are these teams going to be perfect? Almost definitely not. But what you going to do? I'm just having fun. All right, let's go over the regions. Kanto, understand this? Kanto is probably the hardest one to do. Not even probably. Kanto was the hardest one to do. Since it's most likely the first league that a lot of trainers are going to be battling, I wanted to include some very important Pokemon fundamentals in all these battles. Things that you're going to be seeing at least fairly commonly in VGC. But then it's a struggle because as the first generation, this is where the strategies are most limited. Like this is before, I'm guessing, the Pokemon company was like, yeah, we should make this competitive. Like, obviously there was battling, but I don't think they thought of full competitive battling all the way back in like, what, 98, whenever this was. So I had to take some creative liberties. Some of these trainers with their Pokemon might be a bit of a stretch, but here we are. So your tutor, your partner is going to be Blue. Blue's the champion. And the Pokemon he's going to be lending you is Charizard. Cause duh he is. Charizard is a great choice to be your first partner Pokemon to be using for all the 8 battles. First of all, he's iconic, so no one's going to be complaining if they got a Charizard. And he's actually a pretty decent Pokemon too, with some good abilities, some good moves. Like he's had a pretty decent history in VGC. And I hear you all in the comments, well technically, Blue had Blastoise, or if we're going by the Japanese, Green he used Venusaur. So technically Red had Charizard. And then Blue should have someone else. Listen here, nerd. I looked at Bulbapedia. It says he has a Charizard, so that's what I'm going with. Suck it. Sorry, that's mean. Now into the trainer battles themselves. The first battle you're going to be doing is against Red. His ace Pokemon is going to be Pikachu. Because again, of course it has to be Pikachu. How could it not be Pikachu? Pikachu is not an amazing VGC Pokemon, but far from a bad one. Well, far from? That's debatable. The biggest thing Pikachu can do in VGC is it can hold a Light Ball, which doubles, I think, both attacking stats. And not only that, it has Lightning Rod, which is a pretty decent ability. So yeah, it's just cool. It's like, yes, Red is using Pikachu. Pikachu's not a horrible Pokemon. Of course, how could it not be Pikachu, the first one you're battling against? Next is going to be Misty. And Misty's going to be using Gyarados. Gyarados is a pretty solid Pokemon. It's got Intimidate, pretty decent physical attack stat. Misty's used it a few times. She has one in the anime, she has one in Pokemon Let's Go. And Intimidate is a good tool to show players for damage mitigation. Like if we know anything about Incineroar, we know how important Intimidate is. Yeah, solid Pokemon that you'll be keeping for yourself once you beat her. After that, it's going to be Erica, and her spotlight Pokemon is going to be Jumpluff. Jumpluff's a pretty solid Pokemon that's only recently become more popular in VGC. It's got so many tools at its disposal. It's got Tailwind to make your team faster. It's got Sleep Powder to put the opposing team to sleep. It's got Redirection with Rage Powder. Like, how could you not choose Jumpluff? Great supportive Pokemon. Any trainer would be happy having Jumpluff on their team. Next is going to be Sabrina, and she's going to be using Slowbro. Slowbro is not really an amazing Pokemon. It doesn't see a lot of play, but it'll be teaching you something very important, which is Trick Room. In just the last example, Jumpluff is pretty good because it's showing you how to make your team faster, but then with Slowbro, it's showing you how a slower team can become faster as well. For those who don't know, the move Trick Room makes fast Pokemon slow and slow Pokemon fast. It's a pretty popular strategy in VGC, and I feel like it's pretty important to teach trainers this early on. So that's why Sabrina is going to be giving you Slowbro. Not the best Trick Room setter, but I still feel like it's not like a horrible one, especially if you're giving it to a new trainer. The next trainer you'll be going up against is Lorelei, and her spotlight Pokemon is going to be Alolan Ninetales. So she's never actually owned an Alolan Ninetales, but I figured this would be a good enough exception to make because this Pokemon just shows you so many important things. It shows you how to set up weather through snow warning. It shows you about weather, what snow is in Pokemon. It also shows you screens through Aurora Veil. Has some pretty good support in Icy Wind and Encore. It just makes too much sense from like a quote unquote like educational standpoint to not give her Alolan Ninetales. I thought about giving her Lapras, but it's just like, this makes too much sense not to. And technically Alolan Ninetales is the Gen 1 Pokemon, even though it's like not, but Ninetales was, so it's good enough for me. So yeah, that's what she's teaching you. That's what she's giving you. The next one, I like this one a lot, is going to be Professor Oak. That's right, good old Prof's going to be battling an X. Because why not? He's a professor. He probably wants to teach people stuff. And his spotlight Pokemon is going to be Venusaur. Also, I know I included like a grass type Pokemon earlier, but this Venusaur is going to be poison, so it's fine. Venusaur is also a really solid Pokemon. I remember especially in Gen 8 VGC, he was like super, super strong and everywhere. The big thing that I want to be teaching with Venusaur is kind of similar to what we were teaching with Lorelei, weather. Because I figured not only would Oak have Venusaur, but Oak would also have normal Ninetales. And normal Ninetales has Drought, which brings out the sun. Venusaur becomes double fast in sun. You hear that, bud? I forgot I have a Venusaur back here. This guy, totally forgot he's back here. He goes double fast in the sun. He goes shoom, just like that. You're a speedy boy. So that's the inspiration. Oak's going to be teaching you a lot more about sun teams through Venusaur, through Ninetales, and then Venusaur can do so many other things, right? Sludge Bomb, Earth Power, Sleep Powder. There's so much things Venusaur can do. So much things. Our last one might catch some of you guys off guard, but it's actually going to be Elaine from Pokemon Let's Go. Since this is Gen 1, I wanted to have some Pokemon Let's Go representation, so here we are. And of course, since she's from Let's Go, the Pokemon that she has to be using is Eevee. Obviously. Eevee is not necessarily a great Pokemon. Some would even say it's a bad Pokemon, but this is where I'm giving a little wiggle room where we're going to be giving her Z move. Because while Eevee isn't a great Pokemon, with her Z move, she's actually pretty strong. So yeah, it's going to be Elaine with Eevee using Extreme Evo Boost. Bada bing, bada boom. Yeah. Now for the Champions team, Blues team. When creating this team, I try to have at least 2 Pokemon that they've used in the past on their championship team here in the game. Just for continuity's sake and have like a little bit of accuracy's sake. Because if we use like their direct team, it would suck. It'd be so bad. And I want to give the players a challenge. I want them to be fighting against what is basically a full-fledged VGC team. If they want to get a strong Pokemon, they got to work for it. This team's going to consist of Mega Charizard Y, Ursaluna, Exeggutor, Raging Bolt, Walking Wake, and Thundurus. I feel like it's a pretty strong team. Mega Charizard Y in itself, just a busted Pokemon. Granted, you're not going to be getting Mega Charizard. You're just going to be getting normal Charizard. Ursaluna's great because there's a flying type on the team. It'll be able to go crazy with Earthquakes. Exeggutor could be a Chlorophyll Pokemon for Sleep Powders, or it could be a Trick Room Pokemon and have Harvest in the sun. It has so many options. Thundurus is just a good supporting mon. And then Walking Wake and Raging Bolt are just two, like, especially in the sun, just two powerhouses. So yeah, I feel like the trainer is going to struggle against this team if they're not ready, which that's the point. So now that we've covered pretty much the basics with Kanto, we can be a bit more liberal with the strategies and Pokemon we want to use now that we're in Jhoto. The champion this time and your tutor is going to be Lance, and the Pokemon he will be lending you is Dragonite. It is a little strange how for Gen 2, the champion will be lending you and be using a Gen 1 Pokemon, but don't look at me, that's just how the game turned out. Take it up with James Freak, okay? Don't take it up with me. And like Dragonite's his guy. Like Dragonite is Lance's Pokemon. If he lent you any other Pokemon that was not Dragonite, it'd be doing him a disservice. Like literally one of his teams, he has 3 Dragonite. Come on, it's gotta be him. And Dragonite's a solid Pokemon too, you know? It's got extreme speed, it's got scale shot, really good ability with inner focus or multi-scale. Like yeah, this is a solid Pokemon to be your partner to build a strategy around. Your first trainer you're gonna have to battle against will be Chris. I like Chris personally. I love her design. I think her design is like probably my favorite trainer design in Gen 2. But I'm gonna get a little creative here. Her ace is going to be Politoed. Has she ever had a Politoed in any media? No. but it's really important that she does for this. Obviously, if you know anything about competitive Pokemon, the reason you would have a Politoed is for rain teams. Rain is such an important team archetype. It's important that we teach trainers very early on what rain is, how to use it, what are rain setters, etc., etc. Honored teams should probably also have a Feraligatr, so that way there's at least some kind of continuity in the sense that, okay, she's one of the protagonists, she has a starter Pokemon, but the Pokemon she'll be giving you is Politoed. After that, you're going to be battling against Silver, and his Pokemon will be Hisuian Typhlosion. Another choice where it's a little bit of a stretch. Technically, he's never had access to Hisuian Typhlosion, just normal Typhlosion, but I feel like Hisuian Typhlosion is a lot better than normal Typhlosion while teaching trainers basically the same thing. And if you know what I'm talking about Eruption, a move that the higher health you have, the stronger it goes off. And it can't be faked out, so there's no way for you to like stop it, so just yeah. After that, you're going to be battling against Morty. The Pokemon that Morty will be using will be Gengar. The main move that Gengar is going to be using is Perish Song. Not a super common strategy in Pokemon, but still one that I feel like it's important for people to know. If you know what you're doing, especially if there's no trapping, you'll be totally fine. But that being said, if you don't know what it does and it catches you off guard, your Pokemon could be in a lot of trouble. So I think it's kind of fun to introduce this to players. Next is going to be Janine, and Janine's going to be using Weezing. Weezing recently has become a very strong Pokemon thanks to the ability Neutralizing Gas, which disables all the other abilities of all the other Pokemon on the field. Really strong ability. I think it's cool to teach players that and kind of throw them off their rocker a little bit. Like, wait, what do I do? I have to like think in a different way if all their abilities have been taken from them. Next is going to be Bugsy, and he's going to be using Scizor. Just Technician, Bullet Punch, Dual Wing Beat, yada yada. Just good strategy, just solid Pokemon. Nothing fancy here, just something that's cool to know. Next is going to be Karen, and she's going to be using Murkrow. First of all, we had to include Karen here because she's literally the queen of like this whole idea of using whatever Pokemon is like fun or special to use. Like she has that one quote where it's like, you just use Pokemon based off is cool or whatever. That's the quote. But Murkrow is a really solid Pokemon. Another Tailwind Pokemon, but our first Prankster one. Prankster is a very strong ability, especially when it comes to VGC. If you're using a move that's not an attacking move, it'll always go first. And Murkrow, while not like a busted example of this, is a very strong example of this and a good Pokemon to give to trainers. Icy Wind, Haze, Tailwind, Foul Play, so many things you can do with Murkrow. Next is going to be Eusine, and the Pokemon he's going to be using is Electrode. First of all, I love Eusine. I think he's a great trainer. I love his design. He had a big role in the Pokemon mangas, so I feel like especially connected to him. And while Electrode isn't an amazing Pokemon, it's definitely not a horrible Pokemon either. It has one of the highest speed stats, just period. That Pokemon can book it. I figured we're going full support, make it a Screensmon, give it Electro Web, and then maybe like Volt Switch. So definitely not a busted Pokemon, but definitely a Pokemon you can base your team around. Finally, it's going to be the champion team. When you battle against Lance, the Pokemon he's going to be using is obviously Dragonite, but I figured let's make it a rain team. Lance is going to have Dragonite, Arcanine, Kingdra, Archaludon, Pelipper, and Chien-Pao. With Dragonite, I was thinking to kind of set that's Terra Normal, Extreme Speed, with Chien-Pao on the field. It's going to hit like a truck. So yeah, if you're not prepared for this guy, sucks for you. And plus it has 3 dragons on it, which fit with his typing. So yeah, I like how this team turned out. Now in Hoenn. In Hoenn, the champion that's going to be your buddy, your tutor, is Steven, obviously. And the Pokemon he's going to be giving you, Metagross. Shocker. Metagross is a really solid Pokemon. It was definitely stronger back in the day than it is now, but it's still like definitely usable. We're not going to be giving the trainers Mega Metagross because that'd be way too busted. But normal Metagross is a good Pokemon to give trainers to base their team around. The first trainer you'll be battling will be May, and her spotlight Pokemon is going to be Blaziken. Blaziken's cool because it's going to be teaching the trainer a few things. First of all, it's going to be teaching them about speed boost, but also coaching. Coaching is a really strong move that boosts the attack and defense of your partner Pokemon. So this Blaziken is going to be a bit more support, but still strong nonetheless. Pretty self-explanatory. Next is going to be Wally, and Wally is going to be using Gallade. Gallade's a Pokemon that had a pretty solid glow up because it got the ability Sharpness. Sharpness is a move that boosts the strength of cutting type moves. Psycho Cut, Night Slash, Sacred Sword, yada yada. Those are the kind of moves that they'll be using. Yeah, not Mega Gallade, because we still don't know if Mega Gallade's going to keep sharpness or not, because as it is now, normal Gallade is just strictly better. So I don't know, we'll see what happens. Next is going to be Norman. So Norman will be using Slaking. Slocking? I'm going to say Slocking. Slocking is a very strong Pokemon under certain circumstances. Its base stats are nuts, but its ability is trash. Its ability only allows it to move every other turn. So Norman is not only going to have Slocking, it's also going to have Wheezing with them. What I kind of figure we could do is that like on the first turn, Norman will send out Slocking and like some other Pokemon. And then the trainer, the player is going to be like, wait, I can beat this guy because Slocking like sucks. He can only move every other turn. And then he switches out the partner Pokemon with Wheezing and uses Neutralizing Gas to get rid of his ability. I think that's clever. That's what I want to do. Just to show that some Pokemon that may seem like they have a weakness or something holding them back can still be strong under the right circumstances. The next trainer is going to be Zinnia, and the Pokemon that she's going to be spotlighting will be Salamence. First of all, Zinnia is just like a super like popular character, great character, loved her in the Mega Mission or whatever it was. Delta Mission, that was it. And Salamence, just like super strong Pokemon. Just like, I would almost say busted, especially if it was Mega, but we're not giving her Mega Salamence. That'd be too strong. But Salamence, just really solid Pokemon to have on the team. Next up is going to be Noland, and the Pokemon Noland will be using is Registeel. I think this is the first legendary, and as far as I know, the only legendary that will be gifted to you. Well, let's go with the reasonings. First, I really wanted to have someone from the Battle Frontier be in one of the trainer battles. The Battle Frontier is such an important part of the Gen 3 games. I had to include a trainer from there. And I just like Nolan. I like how he looks. I think this guy looks so cool. He's in charge of the Battle Factory. And in the Battle Factory, there are no Pokemon that are actually assigned to you. They're all rental teams. So Nolan doesn't have a specific like set of Pokemon or teams that he uses. But one of the Pokemons he uses is Registeel. So that's why I'm giving him Registeel. But more importantly, what I want him to be teaching with Registeel is about Body Press. Body Press is a very strong move that instead of using the attacking stat of the Pokemon, it uses the defensive stat. And Registeel, I feel, is a really good example on how to do this well. You put down a bunch of iron defenses and you'd use Body Press. Bada bing, bada boom. And while it's a strong Pokemon, it's not a busted Pokemon. A Registeel in itself isn't going to carry a team, but it is a good Pokemon to have on a team, especially with the strategy. And it's important to teach players about Body Press. So there you go. Next is going to be Phoebe, and Phoebe's going to be using Dusclops. Dusclops, really strong Pokemon. It has great bulk, and something I forgot to mention with Murkrow, but I'm mentioning it now, is that Dusclops uses the Eviolite. Eviolite boosts your defense and special defense if you're an unevolved Pokemon. And sometimes that makes those Pokemon better. For example, Dusclops is way better than Dusknoir, which is crazy to think about. I like Dusclops' design better, but that's just me. It's a great Pokemon, teaches about Trick Room again, teaches about Pain Split, Nightshade, great Mon. And then the last trainer is going to be Sydney, and he's going to be using Shiftry. This is going to be a little gimmicky, but I love this anyway, so we're doing it. Shiftry has the ability Wind Rider, that if a Wind type move is used on the Pokemon, it gets like an attack boost, and it is also immune to it. Same with Tailwind. If Tailwind is used, he gets an attack boost. I think this is such a cool ability that doesn't see a lot of use. I think it has a lot of cool potential, and I actually like Shiftry, so I'm adding it. There you go. Finally, the champion battle was Steven. Steven, obviously, has got to use Mega Metagross. Mega Metagross is such a strong Pokemon. If you want the champion to put up a fight, it's got to use Mega Metagross. His team is going to be made up of Metagross, Carbink, Clefairy, Landorus Therian, Iron Hands, and Tapu Koko. Metagross hasn't seen a whole lot of use since his Mega was legal, so I wanted to give him a team that was very similar to what Mega Metagross teams used to look like back in the day. Carbink is kind of the odd one out here, but it was the only Pokemon that he's used in the past that like even sort of fit on this team. Like for a while I was thinking about putting an Aggron, but Aggron is just such a bad Pokemon. And I wanted to make these teams good, so here we are. And then with Electric Terrain, Iron Hands is a great supporter. Clefairy is a great supporting Pokemon as well. And Clefairy just makes sense too. It's like Clefairy is like the moon Pokemon, and he's all about rocks. The moon's a rock. There you go, the logic's flawless. Next up is Sinnoh. The champion, your tutor, is going to be Cynthia. But this might be surprising to some of you. She's not going to be letting you Garchomp. I know Garchomp's her ace. She's not going to be letting you Garchomp. Garchomp is a great Pokemon, but we already have a Dragon Pokemon that has been lent to you in the league. There are so many champions whose ace or their strongest Pokemon are Dragon types. If they had one, I wanted to switch it up a little bit. So I figured instead of giving you Garchomp, she's going to actually give you a supportive Mon. That's right, she's giving you Togekiss. Togekiss is a phenomenal Pokemon. It's got Redirection, it's got Tailwind, it's got Thunder Wave, it's got Super Luck as an ability, which is a busted ability. Just a great Pokemon to base your team around. The first battle that you'll have is against Dawn, and Dawn's going to be using Torterra. Torterra is a bit of a weird choice here. None of the starters from this generation are especially super strong, but a strategy that I really wanted to include somewhere was Shell Smash. And Torterra learned Shell Smash. Shell Smash is a super cool move that not a lot of Pokemon learn, where it boosts by 3 of your stats, but then lowers 2 of your other stats. So what trainers do is that they give Pokemon a white herb where all the stats that were lowered get basically negated. It's a pretty good strategy that makes some Pokemon that originally wouldn't be viable actually decent to use. And Torterra is one of these examples. So yeah, Dawn with Shell Smash Torterra. Next is going to be Berry, and Berry's spotlight Pokemon is going to be Snorlax. Snorlax is another Pokemon that has been good for forever, really solid Pokemon, and the strategy Snorlax will be using is Belly Drum. Belly Drum is a super strong move where you cut your HP in half, but then you maximize your attack. Most Pokemon, if they get this move, they instantly at least become semi-viable, because then you give them a berry that heals up their health a little bit more, just to make it so they don't die in one hit. Snorlax, great Pokemon. Belly Drum, great strategy. That's what Barry's giving you. Next is going to be Crasher Wake, and he'll be using Ludicolo in a Swift Swim range strategy. Yes, he's more known for Floatzel, but Ludicolo's a better Pokemon, so I'm going Ludicolo. And he's used him once before, so that's what we're going with that. Swift Swim, really good strategy. I don't think it's been brought up yet. Important for players to know this, so that's why we're putting it in. Next one is Candace, using Abomasnow. Nothing too fancy, just Snow Warning. That's pretty much it. Just Snow Warning Pokemon to set the snow, some kind of snow strategy. After that, the Elite Four member is going to be Bertha, and she'll be using a Sandine with Hippowdon. I guess it's just a generation of weather. I didn't even plan it this way, it just kind of happened. Hippowdon, again, not like an amazing Pokemon, but any Pokemon that can set the weather is going to be at least decent. And Hippowdon's a really good example of that with Sandstream. After that, it's going to be Palmer, and the Pokemon Palmer will be using is going to be Rhyperior. This was a tough one because I really wanted to include someone from the Battle Frontier, and obviously the most iconic Battle Frontier trainer is Palmer, and the Pokemon he's most known for is Dragonite. But we already used Dragonite, so I don't want to use him again, so I'm giving him Rhyperior instead. And Rhyperior is not an amazing Pokemon, but definitely at least a decent Pokemon. Lightning Rod's a really good ability. I figured that's the ability he'll be showing off as Lightning Rod. Redirect the lightning attacks. Maybe he can have his Milotic on his team, so if you try to attack him with a lightning type attack, it gets redirected. Yeah. That's the idea. The next one is really funny. It's going to be Cheryl, and she's going to be using Chansey and a Minimize strat. Minimize is a strat that a lot of players don't like. Literally what the strat is that you just try to make your Pokemon untouchable. You use Minimize a bunch to raise your evasion, and then since Chansey is super defensive, you can take a hit super easy, stall at the opponent with Toxic and Soft Boiled. It's horrible. It's like a horrible strategy to go up against. But it's a strategy nonetheless. If players want to use it, they can use it. Should they use it? No, but they can if they want to. Also, I know they did take away Minimize from Chansey in later generations, but we're going to pretend like she still has it. Because who knows? They could have brought it back in Pokemon Champions. We know they're changing Pokemon moves and like attacks and like effects, so who knows? Probably just me coping, but here we are. Then finally, the champion battle. Cynthia's teams are going to have Togekiss and Garchomp. There's your Garchomp. But as well as Cresselia, Dragapult, Goldengo, and Ursaluna. You got everything you could have ever want here. You got screens, you got speed control, you got spread moves. Yeah, just a really solid team. So next is Unova, Gen 5. Your champion tutor dude is going to be Alder, and the Pokemon he'll be lending you is Volcarona. I was thinking of having the champion be Iris, but kind of like what I was saying with Cynthia, I don't want all the champions Pokemon just to be dragon types, so we went with Alder instead. And honestly, Volcarona is such a solid Pokemon. I have no issue making Alder your buddy and Volcarona the Pokemon. Volcarona is a great Pokemon with one of the best setup moves in the game being Quiver Dance. It's got really solid coverage with Bug Buzz, Giga Drain, Fiery Dance. It's basically giving bug types the recognition and saving they deserve. I love bug type Pokemon, which is funny because I hate bugs in real life, but the first trainer you'll be going up against is Hilda, and Hilda's ace Pokemon is going to be Superior. The strategy that she'll be using is a strategy of pledges. Pledges are a really unique set of moves where only starter Pokemon can use them, and you have 2 starters out and one Pokemon uses a pledge move and another Pokemon uses a pledge move, then they combine into like a super strong move. It's not a strategy you see all the time, but it's definitely one that does come up every once in a while, and it's honestly not that bad. Hylia's gonna have all 3 starters, Emboar, Samurott, and Superior. The one you'll get is Superior, but she'll have all 3, so that way she can use the pledges. The next trainer you'll be battling against is gonna be Hugh, and Hugh's ace Pokemon is gonna be Liepard. When writing the script, apparently I couldn't remember Hugh's name because I just put angry here, which I mean is accurate. The man's just angry, but I just thought that was funny. Liepard's a really solid Pokemon. Another Pokemon that has the ability Prankster. It has Fake Out, it has Thunder Wave, Knockoff, just solid mon all around. The next trainer is going to be Clay, and Clay is going to be using Excadrill. If you know anything about Excadrill, Excadrill is a really solid Pokemon, moves super fast in the sand, so it's going to be a sand team. Pretty straightforward. Next is going to be Caitlyn, and Caitlyn's going to be using Gothitelle with Shadow Tag. Shadow Tag, busted ability. The fact that your opponent can't switch out their Pokemon when you're using Shadow Tag, just super, super strong. If the player goes into it not being prepared for it, they might be in some trouble. So a good ability for players to be aware of. Next is going to be Marshall, who'll be using Conkeldurr. Conkeldurr is a really strong Pokemon because it gets the ability Guts. What Guts does is that if you have a status condition, I think it like doubles your attacking stat, something crazy like that. So you give it the Flame Orb, and all of a sudden his attack goes to the roof, which is already super strong, and he starts annihilating trainers. Honestly, this guy might be too strong, but we haven't seen Conkeldurr in a while because he wasn't in Gen 9, so it's hard to say how busted he would have been, but he might be on that border of this is too strong of a Pokemon to give a trainer, so we'll see what happens. Next is Corliss, and Corliss is going to be using Magnezone. Corliss, another one of my favorite trainers. I think his design is so cool. I love how he wasn't in Black or White 1 at all. He's only in the sequel games. Technically, he's a villain. Calling him a villain, even though he is a villain, feels weird. So we're including him here. His Magnezone is going to have an air balloon. This is super niche, but I think it's cool to teach trainers how certain items will really boost your Pokemon strength. Like in this case, it's giving Magnezone basically no weaknesses, or taking away a lot of the weaknesses he would normally have. So yeah, that's it. We're including him in. And our last trainer, obviously, it has to be N. How could it not be N? And of course, his Pokemon, how could it not be Zoroark? But I'm switching it around just a little bit. Yes, it's still going to be Zoroark, but we're going to have his ace Pokemon be Hisuian Zoroark. Just because Hisuian Zoroark is so much better. Way better typing, way better moveset, actually usable. Still not like amazing, but definitely like a decent Pokemon that a trainer can use on their team. Now for Alder's team. Alder's team is going to have Volcarona, Conkeldurr, Fluttermane, Grimmsnarl, Tatsugiri, and Dondozo. I really wanted to include Tatsugiri and Dondozo somewhere in this mode because that is a really strong strategy you can use. And honestly, I feel like those are 2 Pokemon that Alder would have. Yeah, really strong Pokemon, really good supportive options. Yeah, just solid all around. Next is Kalos. Your champion's going to be Diantha, and the Pokemon that she'll be giving you is Gardevoir. But we're going to do something a little different here. Not only is she going to give you Gardevoir, she's going to give you Mega Gardevoir. And for one specific reason. I want to teach players about Pixelate. There are certain abilities that turn normal type moves into moves of different types. And not only do they turn those moves into different type moves, they also give them a boost. Pixelate is a great example of that. It turns normal moves into fairy moves, and then also gives them a 1.2 damage bonus. On Gardevoir, that is super strong. Mega Gardevoir was never like a 10 out of 10 Mega Pokemon, but still really strong. So I think it's valid showing the trainer that, and letting the trainer use it. And plus, this is the generation where Megas were introduced, so I'm not losing sleep over it. The first trainer you'll be battling is going to be
Serena, and the Pokemon she will be using is
Chestnut with the ability Bulletproof. Just pretty solid ability, nothing amazing, but definitely has some strong niches where it cancels out all bullet type moves. So yeah, no, I think Chestnut's a pretty solid Pokemon. Next is going to be Urbane, and Urbane's going to have a male Meowstic. Keep in mind, I haven't played Legends ZA yet. I don't have a Switch 2, and I really want to play it on my Switch 2, so I haven't like played that game yet. But I wanted to include trainers from ZA in the Kalos section, so I just like kind of Googled them, I Bulbapedia'd them, and found like what Pokemon they use, and then I fit them into my list. So I don't know a lot about these trainers, so if something might be inaccurate, I apologize. Male Meowstic, not an amazing Pokemon, but still a pretty decent supporting Pokemon. It's got Prankster, it's got Thunderwave, it's got Screens. People would be happy using one. Next is going to be Viola, and her Pokemon is also going to be a supporting Pokemon in Vivillon, whatever it's called. Pretty solid Pokemon. It's got Compound Eyes, which makes not so accurate moves more accurate, and it's got Sleep Powder, which is like a not so accurate move. So it's a good Pokemon to give a trainer. Next is going to be Karina with Hawlucha. I had to include Karina because she's such a fan favorite trainer. And while Hawlucha is not the best Pokemon in the world, it does have a really strong ability in Unburden. Unburden doubles your speed if you don't have an item. So what a lot of trainers do is that they'll put an Unburdened Pokemon on a team with terrain on it, and there are certain items that get used if there's terrain. So say, for example, if Hawlucha has the Grassy Seed and it's on grassy terrain, then all of a sudden it's like stats goes up because of the seed, and then the stats also go up because of the item being gone. That's what Hawlucha is doing. She'll have to have some Pokemon on her team to set terrain, so that way the item can be used and it'll be super fast. Not an amazing Pokemon, but I still wanted to include him here. Next will be Malva with Talonflame. Talonflame is just a really solid Pokemon. It used to be hella busted until they nerfed it. With the ability Gale Wings, if it's at full HP, it has priority, so it always goes first. So that means that its Tailwind, as long as it has full HP, will always go first. If it uses Brave Bird for one turn, it'll always go first, because then it gets recoil. Next is going to be Professor Sycamore. And Professor Sycamore will be using Delphox. With this, we're just doing Expanding Force shenanigans. If you don't know what Expanding Force is, super strong move that hits both targets and gets more powerful if the psychic terrain is up. So yeah, of course, we gotta have it somewhere. And Delphox is a pretty solid Pokemon to have it on, so there you go, bada bing, bada boom. Last is going to be Naveen. Naveen I don't know a whole lot about. Again, I haven't played ZA yet, but he has a pretty solid Pokemon in Scrafty. Has some really good abilities, not too bad stats. The ability we would give it is Intimidate, because Intimidate, just solid ability, you know. It lowers the attack of your opponents, really good damage mitigation, great move pool with knockoff, drain punch, stuff like that. Just a great Pokemon. Scrafty's awesome. I got a Scraggy down here somewhere too. Can you see him? Yeah, there he is. Hi, Scraggy. And now the champion battle against Diantha. Her team's going to be Gardevoir, Mega Gardevoir, obviously, Tapu Lele, Hawlucha, Landorus Therian, Chi-Yu, and Jumpluff. Just a strong set. Obviously, what I'm going with here is Tapu Lele, Psychic Terrain goes up, Expanding Force to your heart's content. Then you can also do Unburden with Hawlucha. You got Speed Control with Jumpluff. And with Chi-Yu, those Expanding Forces are going to hit like a truck. Next is going to be Alola. It's getting harder to choose and show off specific abilities as the generations go on, because they add so many abilities and moves and like strategies that are specific to certain Pokemon. So I try to choose the ones that stand out to me the most, the ones I think are important or unique enough that a trainer should know about it. The champion is going to be Kukui. We love Kukui. The saint, the icon, our shirtless king. And honestly, there's only one Pokemon he could really lend you. We all know who it is. The Pokemon that Kukui will be lending you is Incineroar. Cause duh. If you know anything about Pokemon VGC, you know that Incineroar is the GOAT. One of the greatest Pokemon, if not the greatest Pokemon to ever compete in Pokemon. It's got great bulk, great typing, phenomenal ability, insane moveset. Yeah, of course it's going to be Incineroar. Why wouldn't it be Incineroar? And its set would be stuff like Intimidate, Knockoff, Parting Shot, Fake Out, like the normal stuff, Flare Blitz. Like, you know what it's going to be. Your first opponent is going to be Celine, and Celine's going to be using Primarina. Primarina is a really solid Pokemon with a really good typing and a really cool ability as well. Liquid Voice is a very similar ability to Pixelate, where in this case it turns all sound type moves into water type moves. So you throw a Hyper Voice on that guy and bada bing bada boom, just crazy damage. The next trainer is going to be How, and their spotlight Pokemon is going to be Alolan Raichu. Alolan Raichu is a little bit more niche, but still a really cool and important Pokemon. Its speed is doubled as long as electric terrain is up. So because of that, it's going to have an electric terrain setter. Probably going to have to be Pincurchin, because we're not giving this guy Tapu Koko and we're not giving this guy Electro Bike. So it's probably going to be Pincurchin, which isn't a great Pokemon, but we want to show how terrains work. So there you go. Next is going to be Mallow, and the Pokemon she's going to be using is Lurantis. Lurantis isn't like a crazy amazing Pokemon, but has a very strong ability called Contrary. What Contrary does, it basically reverses any stat changes you get. If you have any stat changes that would lower your attack and instead boost your attack. If your speed gets lowered, your speed gets heightened instead. Especially since your partner Pokemon is going to be Incineroar for this league, this is going to be really cool. So you send out Incineroar and all of a sudden Lurantis is there and it gets an attack boost. And you're like, uh-oh, that's not good. And then Lurantis has to move move called Superpower, which normally lowers your defense and attack after you use it, but in this case, it's going to boost it. So that's cool. After that, it's going to be Acerola, and she's going to be using Mimikyu. Fan favorite trainer and Pokemon. Mimikyu's another really good Pokemon that was so good it had to get nerfed. Really unique ability in disguise that if it gets attacked, it loses only a little bit of damage instead of the actual damage it would originally take. Good Pokemon to even set up Trick Room. This could be a Trick Room strat. Yeah, just good Pokemon to have on your team. Next is going to be Hapu, and her spotlight Pokemon is going to be Mudsdale. Mudsdale has a very unique ability in Stamina. Only like 3 Pokemon get it, but every time it gets hit, its defense goes up. Something it can hit really hard if you're not prepared for. It also gets body press, which we talked about with Registeel. So the higher its defense is, the harder body press is going to hit. A unique strat. This generation was tough. There's so many good trainers and like fan favorites. It was tough to choose in this generation. But your next trainer is going to be Lily, and the Pokemon Lily will be using is going to be Clefairy. Clefairy is a shockingly good Pokemon. Super good supportive wise. It shows the trainer about Eviolite, which we've covered before, but also the ability Friend Guard. What Friend Guard does is that as long as Clefairy is out on the field, it reduces the damage taken by itself and its partner Pokemon. Just strong. Like, that's a strong ability no matter who you are. It's got redirection. It's got helping hand. And yeah, Lily is just an icon. She's such a great character. Of course, they're going to be on part of this list. Your next trainer is going to be Gladion. I had to include him. He's so iconic, so popular. The tough part is that his ace Pokemon is not especially good. Yeah, so Valley's not a great Pokemon. So instead, we're giving him another Pokemon that he uses, Porygon Z. This set is super simple. It's just going to have adaptability, Hyper Beam. For those who don't know, adaptability is an ability that boosts the attack of a Pokemon if that attack is the same type as the Pokemon using it. So you put Hyper Beam on a Porygon Z with adaptability, and that ain't gonna tickle. That ain't gonna tickle, my friend. And then our champion, Kukui. This team's gonna consist of Incineroar, Alola Ninetales, Kartana, Amoonguss, Urshifu Rapid Strike, and Tornadus. This team might haunt your nightmares. I mean, any team with Urshifu Rapid Strike is gonna be tough, but then Amoonguss and Alola Ninetales and Incineroar, yeah, it's gonna be a struggle. So good luck. Next up is the Galar region. The champion, your buddy, of course it's Leon. It had to be Leon. Technically his best Pokemon, his ace Pokemon is Charizard. We already gave you Charizard a while ago, so we're not giving you Charizard here. His ace is going to be another really strong VGC staple. That's right, it's going to be Rillaboom. Rillaboom's just like a phenomenal Pokemon. Just such a good Pokemon. Its big claim to fame is that it gets the ability Grassy Surge, which activates grassy terrain, which gives healing over time, but also boosts grass type moves. And he has the ability Grassy Glide, which is the priority move. So it's so many things at once. He's so strong. Your first opponent is going to be Victor, and Victor will be using Cinderace. Cinderace is a solid Pokemon, but I don't mean like an amazing Pokemon, mostly because it has the ability Protein. Protein? Or does it? No, it's Libero. He has like Libero, doesn't it? Hold on. Cinderace. Yeah, it's Libero. Okay, it does the same thing. Why do they do that? Okay, a little tangent. If two abilities do the same exact thing, why do they give them different names? I guess it kind of makes sense like theme-wise, but like Dazzling and Armor Tail makes sense. Because Dazzling goes on Bruxish, and like Girafarig isn't a Dazzling Pokemon. But like, why couldn't Cinderace have Protein? I don't, whatever, it's not important. So yeah, Cinderace with Libero. Libero has a pretty strong ability because what it does is that every time you use a move, your Pokemon's type changes that move, so it always gets stabbed. This ability was actually so good it got nerfed, where that type switch only happens once. Still strong enough to like have a trainer strategy be around it. Your next battle is going to be against Hop, and his spotlight Pokemon is going to be Corviknight. Really strong Pokemon, pretty dang solid, mostly because of its ability. If a Pokemon uses a move or has an ability that would lower Corviknight's stats, with its ability Mirror Armor, it instead bounces it back. So the opponent's Pokemon would have its stats lowered instead. That's a strong ability. It's like an Uno reverse card. It also gets like Tailwind, like other strong moves. Just a good Pokemon. Next is Piers, and he's using Toxtricity. Toxtricity is not like an amazing Pokemon, but in the right circumstances, it can be pretty dang strong. His ability is called Punk Rock, which boosts the power of sound-based moves. Sound-based moves have been super popular recently. I think showing the trainers a Pokemon that specializes in them and showing how strong they could be is really important. I know we had Primarina do that like a few battles ago, but I feel like it's different enough where this can be included here. Plus, Toxtricity is just sick, and I had to include Piers here. I mean, like, look at this man. This man's an icon. If I didn't, I'd be yelled at. Next is Clara, and she's going to be using Galarian Weezing. Galarian Weezing is a very strong Pokemon, but this is probably not going to be what you're expecting. Weezing is best known for for its ability, Neutralizing Gas. We talked about it earlier with Janine, canceled out all the other abilities of Pokemon on the field. So instead, this Weezing's ability is going to be Misty Surge, which brings up the Misty terrain, which boosts the move of Fairy-type Pokemon. I want to include this terrain a lot because we've already included all the other terrains, Electric, Psychic, and Grass. And aside from Legendaries, Galarian Weezing is the only one that can do that. Especially too, if your partner Pokemon is going to be Rillaboom, it'd be cool to include a Pokemon you're going against to kind of fight against your terrain, make you kind of think a bit more about it. So yeah, Misty terrain with Galarian Weezing. Next is going to be Marnie. First of all, of course I had to include Marnie. I think she's probably the fan favorite character from that generation. I had to include her somewhere here. But the Pokemon I gave her was Grimmsnarl. And that was probably a mistake. Grimmsnarl is such a strong Pokemon. It very well may be the strongest supportive Pokemon in all of Pokemon. Well, no, because that's including Incineroar. But it's definitely like top 5, if not top 3. As Screens, Fake Out, Thunder Wave, Spirit Break. What other moves do you get? Parting Shot. It gets Parting Shot. That's right. Its signature move was Parting Shot. I forgot about that. Taunt, Trick. It is the supportive Pokemon. But that being said, it's the only Pokemon that really fits Marnie. The only other Pokemon that maybe made sense was like Morpeko, but Morpeko is really not that good. Like, it's not a great Pokemon. So yeah, she's using Grimmsnarl. Might be a bit strong, but whatever. What you gonna do? Next is gonna be Bede, and he's gonna be using Bede, BD? I don't know what it is. I figure it out. Bede Pokemon. Bede Pokemon or Bede? Apparently it's called Beat in Japanese. That's funny. I'm calling him Bede. That's what I've called him all this time, so we're calling him Bede. And Bede's spotlight Pokemon will be Hatterene. Hatterene, another really strong Pokemon. It's got Trick Room. It's got Expanding Force. That's the main thing I'll be using. It's an Expanding Force Mon with Trick Room. And finally, it's going to be Mustard. I really wanted to include trainers from the DLC as well. And so he's from the DLC. That's where I'm including him. And plus, I feel like he's just a pretty iconic trainer. So it's going to be Mustard, and the Pokemon he'll be using is Como. Yes, his ace Pokemon is Urshifu. This is not how we're giving you Urshifu. Like, no, absolutely not. You're crazy if you think like you're getting Urshifu. No. Maybe Kubfu. No, that's still too strong. You're not getting that. And Como is a pretty strong Pokemon too. We're giving it the ability Soundproof. We already kind of touched on sound moves earlier with Toxtricity and Primarina. But now we have a Pokemon that's immune to them. Has really good setup, pretty wide move pool. Como is your guy. Leon's team, champion team. The boss team. Leon's team is going to consist of Rillaboom, G-Max Charizard, Dragapult, Urshifu Rapid Strike, Raging Bolt, and what's his name? Ogerpon Hearthflame, Fireface Ogerpon. This is basically just like a hyper offense, all gas, no break team. The Dragapult and the Ogerpon are going to be more supportive. This is a go team. Next is Paldea. Warning. I have not played Scarlet and Violet. I want to play it eventually, maybe. I saw how shoddily the game ran. I'm just like, no, I'm good. I might get him on Switch too, though. But again, I don't have a Switch too, so that's not a conversation for now. All that to say that some of the stuff I might say here might be inaccurate. So if it is, I'm sorry, but I haven't played the game, so I just tried my best. So the champion for the generation is Geeta. Now, Geeta's ace is normally Glamora, and Glamora is not a bad Pokemon at all. But I don't think the Pokemon, especially based on all the other ones that you've been given, is strong enough to be your partner Pokemon for this league. So instead, Geeta is giving you Kingambit. Kingambit is a super strong Pokemon and one that you kind of have to base your team around. It's super slow and you can't just go in guns a blazing with it because it has a lot of really bad weaknesses, but if you can set it up right, it'll be super strong. It has a great ability in Defiant, so that if it gets intimidated, its attack stat goes up instead of down. It's got a Sucker Punch. Honestly, if you wanted to, you could even make it a Trick Room team. The choices are endless with this guy. So yeah, Geeta's going to be your buddy, and she's going to be lending you Kingambit. Your first opponent is going to be Florian, and the Pokemon that he'll be using is Meowscarada. Meowscarada has a move that always crits in Flower Trick. I think that's a cool thing to show the trainer. There are some moves that'll just basically ignore all logic and crit anyways. I think that's pretty solid to teach people. Next will be Nemona, and her spotlight Pokemon is going to be Skeledirge. And the main thing we're going to be showing off is Unaware. Unaware is a really good ability where basically you ignore the opponent's stat drops and raises. Say a Pokemon makes defense go through the roof, Skeledirge don't care. It'll still attack you as if you were at your base stats. Cool thing to teach the trainer. Next is going to be Arven, and he's going to be using Garganackle. Yeah, I'm going crazy. I'm so over recording right now. What time have I been recording since? I can't think about it. If I think about it, I'm going to go even more crazy. I love Garg. I think this Pokemon is stupid, hysterical. I love the Minecraft guy. I think this guy's great. It has a really, really good ability. Has a pretty dang solid signature move in Salt Cure. And this team's going to be a bit more of a stall team. Give it some recovery, maybe give it some grassy terrain. Because we haven't had a stall since Cheryl. So yeah, that's what you're doing. Next is going to be Grusha. And Grusha's signature Pokemon is going to be Cetitan. Cetitan's another Pokemon that's not like amazing, but still pretty solid. It's got Belly Drum. It's going to be a snow team because it's got Slush Rush. Fast, hits hard. Good to show the trainer about this. Next is going to be Larry. I know people love Larry, so I feel like I had to include him. And his ace Pokemon is going to be Flamigo. You could go one of two ways with Flamigo. The way that you probably should go with Flamigo is giving him Scrappy. Scrappy is a pretty dang good ability that a decent amount of Pokemon have, which makes it immune to Intimidate, so its attack stat is a little bit harder to lower. Then it can also hit Ghost types. Really solid ability, makes Pokemon that would not be viable. That's the one you probably should be showing off. But also, I like Co-Star a lot because I think it's funny and like unique. Where basically when you send out a Pokemon with Co-Star, it will copy the stats of the Pokemon next to it. I just think that's cool. I think that's unique. So yeah, probably go with Scrappy though. But a good Pokemon to have either way. Next is going to be Jack, and Jack's Spotlight's Pokemon is going to be Frigoraph. Frigoraph is another one of those Pokemon that may be too strong to be giving the trainer like this, because it's got everything you need. Like, it stops priority, it sets up Trick Room super easily, it's got Hyper Voice, so it actually gives some offensive pressure as well. It's even got stuff like Hypnosis. But we haven't seen a Trick Room Mon in a while, and we haven't seen a move that stops priority yet, so that's why we're including Fraffrig. Next to represent the DLC is Kieran? This guy, I don't know how to pronounce his name. Kieran, sure, why not? Kyurem. Next is Kyurem with the Pokemon Kyurem. I can't tell if this is a fan favorite or not. I'm pretty sure he's not, but I don't remember, so And he's going to be using Sinistcha. Sinistcha is a really good Pokemon. Has a great ability in Hospitality that when you throw it out, it heals some of your partner's HP. Pretty solid signature move in Matcha Gotcha, where it hits both opponents and might even burn them. It's got Rage Powder, just a solid Pokemon. And then finally, our champion team. Gita's team is going to consist of King Gambit, Glamora, Ogerpon Wellspring, Gouging Fire, Xianpao, and Landorus Therian. Honestly, when I was looking up strats to use with King Gambit to make this team, there's a lot of teams that are pretty much just like us that people are using in tournaments like right now. So I just figured this fit super well. That was long. This video turned out to be a lot longer than I thought it was going to be. But yeah, that's my idea of a story mode. Again, this is basically just like Luke wants to make a Pokemon game. I think there's even more stuff you could do with this game, with this story mode. Who knows, maybe for a part 2 if people like this video enough. I'm excited for Pokemon Champions. Are you excited for Pokemon Champions? If it's out already, how is it? Was our excitement warranted? Or did we all play it and we're like, oh, this actually sucks? I hope not, because I like Pokemon. I like Pokemon a lot. Basically, I noticed based on all my manga. Anything else I want to say? I don't think so. Let me know down in the comments. Is this a story mode you would play? How do you think I did? Tell me why all these teams suck and I didn't choose your favorite Pokemon. Tell me. One day I do want to make a video of like how I would make a Pokemon game to my liking specifically. So let me know if you want to see that. And let me know what franchise you want me to talk about next. It's going to be mostly Nintendo stuff. So let me know. All right, I'm out of here. Bye.